Summer. Hello again, St. Lucia. Welcome to the program Agriculture on the Move. My name is Philip Sidney, your host. Today with me in studio is Mrs. Sarita Williams-Peter, who is the Chief Fisheries Officer attached to the Ministry of Agriculture. And we have a lot to discuss today to bring you some good news. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Definitely. So under the World Bank funded a project, Unleashing the Blue Economy of the Caribbean. Under this program, there's a sub-component called the SUC, which is the emergency plan. Give us an overview of that funded project.
Okay, so the UBEC project, which we typically refer to it, is a very important project. It's funded by the World Bank, and it's supporting both fishers and the agriculture sector. And in that program, under the emergency response component, recognizing the impact of COVID, we have engaged in quite a few exercises or activities to help bring relief to our fisher folk. Some of these included the supply of ice to our fisher folk. We also worked on developing an improved FAD management plan, and we are also working on safety at sea. So these components have provided support in terms of the various landing sites. We have provided, well, we're still ongoing, but we've provided refrigeration in terms of the ice making machines so that all our landing sites will have access to ice, which is really critical for improving the quality of fish. And we have also provided storage bins, because one of the main issues we have noticed at landing sites is that our fisher folk, which operate at individual businesses, do not have proper storage for their fish, which means that they end up selling the fish at a very reduced price as the day goes by, because they do not have an area to properly store the fish on ice so that it can be kept for a few more days and freshly for a few more days and can be still sold at market price. So they have to reduce their price, and so they're very vulnerable to these situations. So we wanted to ensure that we provide them with proper storage. We do note that at some of the landing sites, they would use certain materials to store the fish, and these are not acceptable in terms of food safety. So we wanted to also provide them with food grade safety first storage devices.
Great. And also, I know the general upkeep of those landing sites, so where the fish vendors do the cleaning of the fish. I know in January they did some good work there, they fenced the area.
Yes, exactly. So there's also under the government of St. Lucia, there are initiatives that will still be ongoing, which would improve the maintenance of our fisheries facilities. Because these are critical areas, and we recognize that maintenance is important. So the government of St. Lucia is investing in those facilities, helping upkeep it, fencing, improving the markets, for example, the countertops, making sure that they're cleaned and sanitized, and they're able to be cleaned and sanitized. And we're also working towards improving the market, so it's more appealing to the general public to use those areas to come to purchase fish, because the whole blue economy aspect is about increasing the economic value from the sector. Right? And so we recognize that increasing the economic value includes, and it's there in our national policy for fisheries sector, market expansion includes safety of food, safety of fish for human consumption. And once we can work on that, it helps people feel more trust in the fishermen, trust in the fish vendors, that they can buy a quality product and not have to be worried, is this spoiled or not?
Yes. One of the things I noticed too, I'm not sure if it's funded under the UBEC project, is the solar that they have put in at the various landing sites to at least lower the cost of electricity.
Yes, so that's another initiative actually that is channeled through the cooperatives department, but we as a department and as a ministry, we're still working alongside, because it's all one government towards one goal to help the sector.
Exactly.
And so we're working with them in terms of the solar panels for the fisheries facilities. Reason being is that cost of electricity is really, really high. And if you're running an ice making machine, it's going to be really expensive.
Definitely.
So the solar helps reduce the operational costs of the fisheries facilities, and by extension helps the fisherfolk cooperatives, which are responsible for the day-to-day operations, have improved management of the area. So they're not expending as much in terms of electricity costs for those items.
But do you believe that the fishers are aware of the importance to the sector?
Sometimes I wonder,
Yeah.
because they're so important. I mean, when you look at food security and nutrition in a country, and we're looking at all issues regarding trade, we really need to enable our fishers to recognize that they have an occupation that is very critical to the sector, very critical to St. Lucia, important to the nation, because they're feeding the nation.
Right.
They play a very important part in feeding the nation. If our borders, for any reason, remember COVID and all of those issues, supply issues that we're having, when we can get fish straight from the seas that surround your island, there's nothing better than that.
Definitely.
Nothing better than that.
Yes.
And of course, if we help our fisher folk improve the quality and standards of the fish that they land, you're getting a better product than if you imported, which means that it has to go through such a long supply chain before it reaches our island. You're getting a fresher product. You can get a fish 1 hour caught.
Yes, exactly. Fresh on your plate.
Fresh on your plate, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's a dangerous activity, and I think that is why the Ministry of, looked for funding to ensure one proper training, and I think there's a training component that was just under the SIRC that, of course, that went through. Tell us about that.
So under the SIRC, and I've come with lots of
I can see that.
grammar here. Under the SIRC, one of the things we did was first train. We wanted to ensure that our fisher folk were trained, those who were going out to sea, had a good sense or good grounding in terms of how to operate their vessels safely, what to do in cases of emergency, how to ensure their survival at sea, because it is a dangerous world out there. Okay, it is not like farming, it's very different. When you hit those seas, there are so many things that you encounter. It's really remarkable how they fare those seas and come back, so it's kudos to our fisher folk.
We have to.
And we wanted to make sure that they were operating safely, right? Because safe fishing means productive fishing, which means better for the economy. And so we requested under the SIRC to purchase various safety equipment so that we would equip all licensed fishing vessels with the safety equipment required under the legislation.
All right.
Yes. So we acquired 400 grab bags, and we're right now doing a distribution tour around the island to all of the fisher folk at the various landing sites, all our main landing sites, and we have done Dennery. It happened yesterday.
It was very successful.
Yes, very successful. We issued about 70 grab bags, and then we are going to be moving to Soufrière on Friday and continuing with the rest of the island. Yes, so our tagline for that whole program is really about gearing up for life, and we're going to be empowering our fisher folk by issuing them with the safety equipment and ensuring that they have the safety equipment at least one vessel at a time. We are empowering them. Yes.
Okay. So tell us about what you have there.
Okay, wonderful. So I just wanted to highlight these. These are DVDs or CDs, and probably it's a little archaic in this age, but we have it digital as well. So these were under a different initiative where we produced this in collaboration with fisher folk.
Okay.
So we had our fishermen there, and we also had a master maritime individual who supported our fisher folk, and we created lots of training videos, or at least a sensitization video for our fisher folk. And in this project, which happened a few years back, but just to show how the department has been progressing and constantly preaching the safety to encourage a safety culture. All of these were distributed to our Fisher Folk cooperatives so they could use it at their meetings and again to continue the message of safety. Here, this book right here, we had created a training course, a competency standards course to ensure our Fisher Folk got all the information that was necessary, all the things that they need to know in terms of safety and how you operate your boat safely. And that was done again in collaboration with Fisher Folk, and we ensured that they included some traditional knowledge in there, not just the standard information from the International Maritime Organization, but we included some traditional knowledge in here.
Okay.
And for the grab bags, which is the initiative that we're doing now, we have first, this is the bag. Right? And it has this reflective strip here, which is also very important in signaling. And the bag itself can be used as a personal flotation device. So if you fall, it floats, yes. So if you fall overboard and somebody sends this for you, you can actually hold on to this as a floater. And in the bag, and these are the goodies here, we have a first aid kit, which contains quite a bit of material to help with if you have any injury at sea, you can have a first aid kit. So
like
a hook gets into you, bruises, scrapes, because we had done a project with FAO which interviewed fishers and found out that there were injuries that they did have at sea or accidents that they did have at sea. You could have a sprain, you could slip, fall, hit your head. So all of this here, and we had done in the past, we had done first aid training with the St. Lucia Red Cross for our Fisher Folk as well. So again, this helps give them the tools necessary. Then we have our VHF radio, which is very important, and this is quite an expensive item, and we're going to be given all our fishing vessels will be equipped with VHF. And this helps for you to be able to signal for or call. It's a communication device, helps you call for assistance, whether it be a distress or an emergency, you have this so you can contact. So very often Fisher Folk want to use cell phones, and the cell phone range cuts off. It's very limited. But with the VHF, and we have also put in repeaters, which helps the VHF communicate with the land masses. We did that on a different project, and we're building on that as a department. So we've been able to get these VHF radios, and if you're on the sea and you need to contact for help, once you put to channel 16, any other vessel that has a VHF radio on board would be able to get your distress.
That is the common channel? That
is the channel for emergency, yes. So you can say mayday, mayday in that there, and then you could switch off once if somebody gets your signal, you can switch to a secure line, and then you can have a conversation with regards to your safety and how they can get you there. So sometimes
is it easy to use? So will you have to train them?
We will have to train. Some fishers already have the VHF radio because we purchased under another project quite a few, and so some more vessels were needing it, so we made sure we got some more. And our extension officers are available at the various landing sites to support each Fisher Folk in helping them use this. So if you need one-on-one training and you need a little extra support, we are here to help you. So however long it takes, we are there to help. We're patient and we're there to help you understand how to use the device. And this is better than a cell phone, again, because it allows you not only to contact one person at a time, but you contact multiple people. And even we've provided the fisher cooperatives with the ability to have a VHF radio as well. So if there's a distress, they will also be able to hear. Yes, so you're very connected.
But how would you be able to identify, say, for example, to tell somebody who you are in distress and where exactly you are?
Okay, so this device will allow you to communicate. So you're able to speak into the device and they will know, okay, I'm in distress, normally the questions they would ask is, what's the name of your vessel, what's your registration number, what is your name, how many people on board, who are these people? So they get a sense of what is the emergency, so what they're dealing with. And then sometimes you may have to, most times if it's an emergency, you need to escalate it to the St. Lucia, Royal St. Lucia Police Force, the Police Marine Unit, which would action a search and rescue if required and set the process, right? Also too, in terms of being able to say where you are is very critical.
It's very critical, yes.
And so there is this one, I believe, also is equipped with a GPS.
Ah.
Okay, so the GPS, this is built into this one, so you will be able to see your position as well, right? And this is required by the law, especially the GPS and the VHF. Is some of the requirements. We ask for fishers to get it, and so we realize that yes, it might be cost. There might be a cost implication. You have it now, no excuses. Yeah. Then we have, in terms of signaling, we have here a distress signal, which is like a flag. There are lots of different flags that can be used, but we've provided them with an orange one. It has a circle and a square, and it helps to indicate to any planes or any other vessels that you are in distress. So if all else fails and you have a flag and someone is around you or close enough, or they're doing a search and rescue using a plane or another vessel, and you have this exposed, they would know that you're in distress. So that is a
universal sign?
That is a universal sign, yeah? So if it's an airplane, then you'd make sure you put it in an area where the plane can see, or if it's another vessel, you can put it on your mast so that it's high up and is visible, yeah?
Good.
Then we have the signal light here, which operates by indicating that you're in distress. SOS, save our souls. Okay, so it gives the SOS signal, and it allows for any other vessel that is in close proximity to see the light and recognize that this person or vessel is in distress. And we have our reflective mirror. Sometimes people think this is a simple little thing, not necessary, but sometimes this simple little thing can be the difference between life or death. Okay, because this helps you, especially during in the daytime, be able to reflect light onto another vessel so they can see. And you can also signal the SOS through the light, through the mirror, to another vessel so they can see.
Is there a signal or something?
It's not a signal, it captures the light and you can reflect the light onto another vessel.
Okay.
So that's a little simple item, but
very effective.
Can be very effective if everything else fails, right? And then you also have a whistle for attracting attention.
Yes.
Okay, and finally, there's this item down here, which has what we call a drogue, or a sea anchor, and it helps reduce the drift of a vessel. So one of the major reasons for distress at sea based on our data is engine trouble. Always an engine trouble. Somebody goes out, the engine gives trouble and the vessel starts to drift. And when your vessel starts to drift, you can end up places you didn't intend to end up. And so the drogue or the sea anchor is a cone-shaped item that you put it in the water column and it helps reduce the drift of the vessel.
Okay.
Yes, so that can also be very effective in helping you not end up places you didn't want to end up. At least reducing those chances of this.
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what's in the kit. We also have extra batteries for the VHF, for the signal light. So at least you can keep it going for a while, but of course you need to check the batteries, make sure it's functional so that you're not going out with items that are not functional. So
I noticed, well, that's what I noticed. There isn't a compass, and I didn't see a flare gun. Is that not?
So the flare, well, actually right now we got the specifications for the signal light from the Police Marine Unit. So some of the things that they recommended is a signal light over the flare. However, in our legislation, we still recommend the
flare gun.
Not the flare gun, the handheld flares. The gun is still regulated by the police. It's still seen as a firearm. It's categorized as a firearm under their legislation. So we do not recommend a flare gun, but we would recommend two night flares, handheld flares, and 2 daylight flares. However, if you have this, it would support the night as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I noticed, and is there I'm not, well, is there a law against you going out alone to fish?
Very much so.
So if there's a law, but I notice a number of people do that, they go by themselves.
Yeah.
And to me that is very risky.
Yes, it is very risky. One of the things we recommend is, because there is also the Shipping Act that is governed through our Division of Maritime Affairs, and they work closely with the International Maritime Organization that deals with seafarers. And there's a category, I mean, sometimes we look at fishers as separate, but there are seafarers as well. And particularly as we're looking at developing the sector and thinking, okay, can they go further out? Can they do high seas fishing? Can we go into bigger boats and explore the high seas? These are basic pieces of equipment and knowledge that's important. And you must have a second person on the vessel, because you need a lookout. You need somebody to look out, make sure that, to take a look to see what's going on as you're behind the wheel or captaining the vessel. So it's very critical. And also for basic safety, if something happens to you fall ill, there's somebody else. And that's why these safety equipment is not only for emergency at sea from the perspective of your vessel is running adrift or something's wrong with the vessel, but maybe if whilst you're at sea, someone else on the vessel gets a heart attack, gets a stroke, collapses, and you're coming back to shore, you can actually signal for assistance so people know you're coming back with somebody that is critically ill, and so they can make preparations for onshore for you. So that's some of the other aspects of it. So sometimes you may say, I'm a perfect fisher and nothing will happen, I check all my checks. There are other things that you have to also cater for. So it allows you to communicate with land, and so that if there's an issue, you can also engage.
I mentioned the compass, and tell you why. I have my good friend in Banan, and he went out and it started to rain and got a little cloudy and hazy. So he decided, okay, he's going back in. So again, they have the landmark, and they know they're going this way. So he's positioned himself in this way. But then for some reason, he went down to catch something, and the boat shifted just a few degrees, okay? And he continued. And he was lost for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Now I'm saying, okay, if you had a compass, I don't know, I mean, will it help?
It would definitely help, because we did recognize that a lot of our fisher folk use, when we were doing the boating operations and safety vocational course, we were putting it together. We did recognize a lot of fishers use the landmarks to be able to know where they're going, etc. Now, whilst this can be very beneficial, particularly when you're looking at your fishing grounds and knowing where your fishing grounds are and so forth, and that's a very good traditional knowledge.
Yes.
We would still recommend that you have navigational devices.
Yes.
The compass or the GPS device, because you may, at any point in time, maybe somebody else on the vessel doesn't know the landmark. Yes. And if you were asking for help from maybe a different vessel or the Marine Police, your landmark and their landmark are totally different. You need to be able to speak the seafarer's language.
Correct.
You need to be able to speak it, and having a GPS device, knowing where you are, is very critical. So the landmarks have its place. However, if you want to be able to grow in safety culture, you need to have your compass, your GPS devices, so you know where you are, where you're going at all times.
I also noticed that you mentioned registered boats to receive this. Are you saying there are boats out there who are not registered and still going out to sea?
Okay, so the department, just to give a background on what we do, so the department would license fishing vessels, license vessels to fish. We give you permission to engage in fishing. As part of that permission process, we issue you with a vessel identification number, which is your registration number, and that would give you permission to be out there. We do have a few vessels that are engaged in fishing that are not licensed to fish, and we do have vessels that are on our waters that do not have any registration number, which would be either a registration number from the Department of Fisheries or a registration number from our maritime authority within SLASPO. And if you do not have any of these numbers, you are called a stateless vessel, which means that you do not belong to the stateless vessel,
Okay.
which means you do not belong to the state.
Okay.
And you know, this is illegal. This is contrary to the legislation, the Shipping Act in particular, and it requires the person to get addressed. Right?
So if that person is in distress out there, and say, for example, they have the necessary gear and they call for help,
they will be helped. One of the seafarers' rule is life over everything else.
Okay.
Okay. So there will be support to assist you. Okay. There will be support to assist you no matter what.
So the drive now, I'm thinking, is to try and get every boat owner to be registered.
Yes, we do. We have always been doing that. But however, for this equipment, we catered for the vessels that were licensed for the 2024-2025 period, right? So that we knew exactly how many bags to order to cater for those individuals, because these were our legally operating vessels. Anyone coming after that, they would need to get licensed, they would need to make sure that they have their safety equipment, because we know there are people operating illegally, and we've always said we cannot legitimize vessels that are operating illegally. It is unfair to the vessels that are the fisher folk that are operating legally within the bounds of the law.
And that is serious, because to be honest with you, I believe there are lots of persons who have gone out there and never came back because of simple not having the required equipment for safety.
Exactly.
You know, and to know that they're gone. You know, so a family member is lost. You know, as a result of not having maybe just one piece of equipment that could probably save your life.
Exactly, and that's why we're doing this drive, because we recognize that there has been a lot of pain and a lot of families. I mean, I think a few years ago I was at I don't want to say a funeral, but it was a recovery of their ashes, kind of like a little ceremony to look at a fisher folk that had passed in that way. They were lost at sea, they passed, and the family were receiving their remains. And it was very
painful,
crushing. It's very painful. I mean, very often the fisher folk, the fisher himself is the main provider for that household. So just think of the economic implications of that. So for us as a department, as a ministry, it's really important that we support that safety culture.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're very important. So not only do we give the bags and the safety equipment, but we've also provided access to the vessel monitoring system, where we give devices to willing and people who have said they want it, the access to a VMS device on the vessel. So it's pretty much like a box, small metal box you put on the vessel, but that box speaks to a satellite and enables monitoring on a computer device as to where that vessel is located.
It is very good.
Yes. And so what we have been doing is issuing to each boat owner for their individual vessel a password and username so that they themselves can monitor their vessel.
Great.
Yes, and that has really worked very well. In fact, we've gotten a few calls of asking our assistants to locate the vessel, and we've been able to see the other vessels going towards the vessel that was in distress.
Wow.
And when we called, they're like, yeah, there have a few fishermen trying to go to him, and we saw it on the system.
So
and we're like, it's working.
Great.
It's really working. So we're encouraging other fisher folk to take advantage of that opportunity. It's voluntary, but it's a really good tool that can support as well.
We have half a minute left.
Okay.
Any final words from you, ma'am?
Well, for me, I just want to encourage our fisher folk to stay safe at sea, adopt a safety culture. It's not only for yourself, but it's also for your family. And of course, the general public, to encourage our fisher folk to support them. When they ask for the price of fish, support them, because they have all of this equipment to maintain and to keep abreast so that they can continue fishing for you and providing you with food.
Well said. Thank you very much for being here, Sarita, and I wish you, of course, success moving forward.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Agriculture on the Move. Thank you for viewing the program, and of course, I just want to tell you that the Honorable Alfred Prosper, the Minister for Agriculture, is responsible to ensure that this activity happens around the island. he would do anything to ensure that you fishers are safe out there, and that is a result of him asking to get things happening for his ministry. Thank you again for viewing, and remember, agriculture is our business and fishery is our business too. I'm Philip Sidney saying goodbye and see you again. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
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 In the data, and this data is really to go towards making informed decisions. So now we'll have a better understanding of what is the pollution actually like at Casaba Beach, what is actually the solution at Fordo, what is the types of pollution. So what we would have seen is that in Dennery, we would